Good morning. Thanks for joining us. It's 8:30 and you're at the Finance and Physical Resources Committee meeting. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak this morning? All right, seeing none, our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes from March 5 and also the auditing of checks and purchase order activity. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Support.
So moved by Commissioner McLeod, support by Commissioner Kallman. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Our next item comes from the Treasurer's Office, and it is the delinquent 2023 real property taxes, authorized issuance of general obligation limited tax notes, Series 2024.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to establish a county delinquent tax revolving fund 2024 collection account, and that's for the calendar 2023 delinquent real property taxes, and authorize the sale of general obligation limited tax notes, Series 2024, in an amount not to exceed $25 million. Summary of request. The Board of Commissioners annually approves the establishment of a Kent County delinquent tax revolving fund collection account pursuant to the provisions of PA 206 of 1893 as amended. The county has annually issued tax notes to pay local governments and itself for delinquent real property taxes since 1973. Last year, the county issued $13.13 million in Series 2023 tax notes for the delinquent 2022 real property taxes. The note proceeds are utilized by the county treasurer to purchase the right to all delinquent 2023 real property taxes that are due to any governmental unit levying taxes. The county treasurer will assess an administrative fee of 4% to cover any costs associated with this activity and an interest rate up to 1.5% of the delinquent taxes.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wooden, support by Commissioner Antor. We do have members from the Treasurer's Office here for any questions or comments. Do you have some information you'd like to provide this morning?
No, Al did Pete McGregor, County Treasurer, sorry about that. Al did a wonderful job introducing it. I'm just here. It's pretty much the same process that we've been going over the past few years. So I can answer any questions.
Yeah. Commissioner Kallman.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Treasurer.
Good morning.
Just a couple of questions and maybe one follow-up. So I'm just curious, we spent 20 years or so with the Fed having keeping us at a very, very low interest rate environment. Now that we're no longer in that environment, have we looked at kind of the costs of doing these notes compared to other alternatives with internal funds? And then my second question is the interest rate of 1.5% on delinquent taxes. Is that an annual rate or a monthly rate?
It's monthly compounded,
Okay.
yes. So to answer your first question, yeah, rates have changed drastically over the past couple of years. Last year, we went with a variable rate because of that. We had our PFM, who's our financial advisor. We go over both scenarios, fixed and variable, and come up. They're 2-year notes that we're dealing with, so this should be paid off or will be paid off before 2 years come up. What we're finding is in a private placement, because of the awesome AAA bond rating and history that the county has, private placement variable rate has been probably the best option these last 2 years, and even more so this year because rates are going to be coming down. So having that variable rate was important. I think what's most important is that we can pay these off early, and we, if it's fixed under what we've been doing prior to my taking office or my first year with these fixed rates, it's standard. This is how you pay, and it's over the 2-year period. But if we can pay it off in 16, 17, 18, 19 months, we're saving tax dollars because we're putting money towards the principal as well. So hopefully I answered those questions. Oh, the question regarding should we be doing this internally? Yeah, if we had $19 million available in the revolving fund, we could do that. We don't yet, but we were trying to get to that point. I think last time we checked, we're closer to 11 or 12 million right now in that fund, but we also need to worry about some of the lawsuits that are coming down the pipeline. So it's a balancing act right now. There will be a time, and I know I've talked to both Jeff and Al about this, about trying to do this on our own, which, yeah, we would save some money because then we wouldn't have the expense of going through this process, the bond counsel and all the other costs, which is probably about just under $30,000 to do this.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week. All right, our next item comes from Fiscal Services, and it's the Gerald R. Ford International Airport Authority Revenue Bonds Series 2024.
All right.
And one note I just want to make on this, on the original action request that we received, it did say, on the bullet point number 2, it said 300, where it's been updated before our meeting this morning to read 300 million. So just a slight change there.
Okay. Darn it, it just flipped on me.
You want to read this?
Yeah, what did I read it there? Okay. Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the plan of financing related to the Gerald R. Ford International Airport Authority issuance of revenue bonds, Series 2024. Summary. The authority is authorized under Act 95, Public Acts of Michigan, 2015, which permitted the county to form the authority to issue revenue bonds in accordance with Act 94, Public Acts of Michigan, 1933, as amended. The County Board of Commissioners approved the issuance of revenue bonds, Series 2022, by the authority in an amount not to exceed $300 million with Resolution 10/27/22-108. Series 2023A was issued on April 12, 2023, in the amount of $159,390,000 for the funding of the rental car parking project. These bonds were issued as taxable bonds, as this project did not meet the exemptions to qualify for tax-exempt status under federal tax rules. Since more than 12 months has elapsed since the original TEFRA hearing, which was held on September 9, 2022, without the issuance of the tax-exempt portion of the original series, a new TEFRA hearing must be held in order to maintain the tax-exempt status of the remaining portion of the previously authorized revenue bonds. The proposed resolution will approve the authority's plan of financing, as required by Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code, for tax-exempt bonds issued to finance projects with private business use. The bond proceeds will be used to pay for the construction and/or improvements to the terminal project. The bonds issued to finance the terminal project will be tax-exempt bonds. Staff anticipates closing on the bonds in May of 2024. Bond counsel has reviewed all documents.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Green. Is there support? Support by Commissioner McLeod. We do have Tori Richardson and Matt Zielstra from the Airport Authority here today. Do you have any questions or comments regarding this item? Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Chair. My question actually might be for Jeff Dode. Just, I'm sure we're well under the threshold, but every so often we get a kind of an update on how much bonding capacity we have left before it starts to potentially risk our bond rating. And I just wanted to make sure how close we were to that threshold.
Good morning, Commissioners. So we're currently allowed to spend 10% of our SEV. We're currently, I think, last I checked, like 0.94, so under 1%. So,
Perfect. Thank
and
you.
this amount's already in that amount, so the
Oh,
300 million. So
wonderful.
because this is no new money right here. So
Right.
Right.
This is no new money. This is more of a procedural.
Just a procedural item, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question, I guess, in terms of how much we might save by moving forward with the non-taxable as opposed to the taxable bonds.
Very good question. So, tax exempt status, the shareholders wouldn't require as much return, of course, so they would be a little bit less expensive on the coupon rate. Our estimates right now at a 5% coupon rate our total debt service would be around 176 million. And if they were taxable and we bumped it to 5.5%, so just a 0.5% more on the coupons, it would go to about 184 million. So it's an increase of about 8.2 million over the life of the bonds, an additional debt service.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much for your time this morning. All right, our next item comes from facilities and is transfer ownership of former Sheriff's North Substation to Tyrone Township and a parcel split.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the transfer of title of a portion of the property commonly known as 790 17 Mile Road Northwest to Tyrone Township. Summary, located at the southwest corner of 17 Mile Road Northwest and Payne Avenue in Tyrone Township, the county-owned 790 17 Mile Road Northwest facility has served as the Sheriff's North Substation since 1979. Originally leased, the property and building were purchased by the county in 1983. The land parcel is nearly 3 acres. Since the sheriff's services have relocated to the new North County campus substation, Tyrone Township has expressed interest in acquiring the facility located on one half of that property. Kent County has no current or projected needs for the facility. Kent County owns a radio tower located on the other portion of the property that the county will retain ownership of. A property split will divide the parcel accordingly. Tyrone Township will use the facility for a public purpose, which is yet to be determined. The township will initiate the parcel split. The county board chair and/or the county administrator are authorized to sign the necessary documents to make the parcel split and transfer the appropriate portion of the property to Tyrone Township. The proposed property transfer to another governmental unit is an allowed method of disposal of surplus property under the purchasing procedures. Corporate counsel will prepare the transfer of title documents.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner McLeod. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments regarding this? Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question. In terms of our own purchasing procedures, because there are times when we sell property, there's times that we transfer property. Do we have in those procedures what the threshold criteria is, or is it the determination of the administrator?
It's really the determination of the administrator and decision of the board.
Yeah. I think, certainly think that the administrator has made the right determination, and I'm planning on voting for this. It is a very small property. I do wonder if there might be some value in having some degree of threshold, if only so that there's a clear understanding of kind of equal treatment in different cases as we make those transfers between local governments. They're rare, but some kind of understanding of when we're going to do one procedure versus another might be helpful, if only so that we can be transparent with our partners.
No, good comment. And I think a couple things that come to bear are, number one, do we have a use for it? I mean, that's the first decision on whether we sell something or deed it. And in this case, when you look at the building, it's a small cinder block building with real limited, I think, application. If the community has a use for it, we think that's a very legitimate way to dispose of some surplus property, so.
Oh, 100%. No.
But, yeah, we can certainly look into that.
The determination that has been made in this recommendation makes ample sense. I will be voting for this. I just, every so often we have transfers or we sell property and between our different various local units of government, and just maybe I know we like being flexible, that's important, but just having a little bit of extra explicit direction or something more explicit in writing might just help us be more transparent and fair. Thank
All right?
All right, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious, am I reading it right, then we're gonna be selling an acre and a half approximately along with the building?
Yes.
And then the other acre and a half
Let me
has,
confirm that. Tim, is it, I'm not exactly sure what the size of that half is.
I don't have exact to the hundredth, but it's roughly 1 acre that we're retaining and about 2 acres that's going to the township.
and I was just curious why they didn't buy the whole thing. I know we have a tower that we'd probably get an easement for, but it
Yeah.
just seems kind of weird to split it like that.
We wanted to retain full ownership of that parcel with the tower on it, just to have really all the flexibility that we might need for future leases on it as a revenue source.
There's no chance they'll come back and say, hey, we don't want that tower.
They're No, I don't think so. They've been really good to work with.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Green.
Just briefly, Tim, since you're up here and we talked about the tower, what do we use that tower for, the county?
Currently, there's FBI communications are on it, and we have an opportunity to, we could put AT&T or, other
Could lease
communications
it.
on there as well.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I know the answer to this, but this is a transfer. There's no sale here, right? That is no cost. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Item number 6 comes from facilities, and it's a capital improvement program transfer to 1101 Ball Avenue.
Action requested, approve a $115,000 transfer of appropriation from the 82 Ionia Generator Capital Improvement Program, CIP, to the demolition of the site at 1101 Ball Avenue, CIP. This is a building that was formerly leased to Arbor Circle pursuant to the fiscal CIP policy. Summary, additional asbestos was discovered within the walls of the eastern portion of the 1101 Ball Avenue building in the process of abating known asbestos throughout the building. Materials testing consultants came and tested the materials, confirming it met the hazardous thresholds. The county's demolition contractor provided an additional fee to remove the additional hazardous material, which was not known at the time of the project bid. Transferring these funds to the 1101 Ball Avenue CIP serves an immediate and known need and is recommended. There is no negative impact to the generator project due to the county's anticipated disposition of 82 Ionia in future years.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Green. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments? Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. So just a quick question about the additional asbestos that was found here. It seems like it would have been obvious that there was probably some asbestos in this building, and I just wondered if this, like how this is going to impact, the removal of the buildings. I'm thinking about also the state police building. There was, that's been kind of slow to come down because of, I believe, some similar reasons. Just wondering how the company that we're using to do this is mitigating sort of all of these factors.
We have Tim here to answer those questions.
Yes, so there's a lot of training and regulations involved in how asbestos is removed from demolishing buildings. And that waste material has to go to certain landfills and be handled in specific ways. In particular, this piece that we need the additional funding for is literally inside of the wall. So there was, I think it was a 178-page report that MTC did for everything that was visible and that they could see and test. But because this was inside the wall cavity, nobody knew that it existed until we started to actually rip off windowsills and see inside the walls. So that's why it was unknown, unfortunately.
Just a quick follow-up then. So how is this, I guess, going to impact the timeline?
We've had probably 3 months of delay already, just trying to figure out how significant it truly is. Did it meet the hazardous thresholds or not? I would say that we also sent our contractor a stop work request on this particular building, so they have not responded yet. I'm not sure if they want to continue to go forward with the rest of the project or not. We may rebid the 1101 Ball building because the relationship has been strained, I would say, due to some of the delays. But regardless, we're going to need, the funding if it's a new contractor as well to finish the project.
Okay, thank you, but just, I don't know if my question actually got answered, but, so are you anticipating that, so there's already been a 3-month delay, and if we have to rebid, it's gonna, delay things even longer, just trying to get an understanding of, like, in terms of the total project timeline that you initially envisioned, like, are we talking about another year delay?
There's really two paths. If our current contractor says, we really want to find a way to work through this with you, Kent County, and we want to finish this project, and we come to terms somehow, I think they could be back out there working next week. If the other path comes to fruition where we need to rebid, you probably wouldn't see any new action for at least 6 weeks until a new contractor mobilized. And then there's probably at least a month of actual work on the site. So ballpark, fall.
All right, thank you.
Tim, just one clarification. I think what I heard the commissioner asking was, when we look at the State Police Crime Lab and then look ahead to the demolition of the hospital, is this something that could happen again, or do we have a method to determine this and not face this again?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So we can do more destructive testing than what we did on these buildings, especially with the hospital being completely vacant, just as really these buildings were too. But the hospital is even older and is known to have, lead and probably other materials in it. So it's going to be a significant effort to investigate the materials in the hospital as that project starts to move forward this upcoming fall.
And work has started on the State Police Crime Lab, so that's already been addressed in that case.
Yeah, the state police site is going well. I just drove by there yesterday. I would say they're 75% done at this point as far as knocking the structure down. And then when they're done with that piece, they'll start digging out the foundation underground.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Merchant.
Thank you. I'm just curious, since you're mentioning that we're having some issues with the contractor, how much have we paid out to them? Like, kind of what's the percentage at where we're at? And then if we have to rebid, are we gonna face significant increases in costs just because we've already paid them for services they haven't rendered?
Right. So the contract that we negotiated with them is a lump sum payment when they finish the entire project. So we haven't paid them anything yet, and we don't have to pay them anything until they finish both jobs. The offer that we gave them was roughly 75% of the work. It's truly, the work that they have done, so it's fair. There's definitely some risk in rebidding the work. It continues to be a pretty strong construction market, and we factored that into the decision on whether we move forward with them or not. So I don't know is the short answer. I hope that the bids come in the same or less, but it's entirely possible they could be more.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Item number 7 comes from Community Action. It's the 2024 Low Income Home Energy Assistant Program Weatherization Assistance Program funding.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $226,788 in additional federal grant funds passed through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program Weatherization Assistance Program. I wonder how much, do they pay people to come up with this stuff? All right, to the 2024 Kent County Community Action KCCAA Fund, contingent upon execution of an amended contract and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. The Board of Commissioners previously appropriated $266,356 in grant funding, along with $14,404 in general fund transfers for the 2024 LIHEA WAP program with Resolution 08242382. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has made an additional $226,788 available for KCAA to increase services through the end of September 2024 for a total grant award of $493,144. The additional funding will allow KCAA to weatherize up to 17 more homes for low-income homeowners throughout the county. The period of performance is October 1, 2023 through September 30, 2024. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form prior to signature.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item? Motion. Moved by Commissioner Spark, support by Commissioner McLeod. Questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Antor.
On the not to exceed 15% piece on this, what is that type of contingency for?
It could be a whole number of things. I mean, basically, it's if the cost should go over the contract amount. But it could be finding something that wasn't anticipated. It could be conditions that change in other areas. I don't know. We have our purchasing director here if you'd like to elaborate more. But I mean, it could really be any reason that causes that contract to go above what we signed it for.
I'm just curious, is that something that could be gamed potentially by someone saying, you know what, I see 15% wiggle room here, we can increase some costs to get to that threshold? I don't, how do we?
I'll just say that my experience with our purchasing department is that they're rarely gamed
I agree.
on this like hawks. So I'm going to answer no to that.
Yes.
No, I agree with you. I understand that. I'm just, but it's a question because it's written right here, we can get up another 15%. So it depends on how good of a salesman, whoever the contractor is,
It is something that's very common on all the grants that we
Yeah, I've seen it.
go through. Linda has some additional follow-up.
One of the other things we get every so often is that the funder will have a little bit extra money so that we can do more work. And that 15% gives us the ability to accept that money without coming back through the board for just that little tiny adjustment in potentially extra funds coming down from the funder.
Okay, great. And I know our new purchasing director is going to be as good as Cal Brinks.
That's what we're anticipating, yes.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Next item, also from Community Action, item number 8, it's Local Water Utility Affordability Program Fiscal Year 2024.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $1,693,802 in grant funds from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the Local Water Utility Affordability Program to the 2024 Kent County Community Action Fund budget contingent upon execution of a contract and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. The Michigan DHHS has made $1,693,802 available for Kent KCAA to administer the local water utility affordability program. The LWUP will be available to residents below 200% of the federal poverty limit who have a past due balance on their water and/or wastewater utility bill or have received a shut-off notice. KCAA's target outcome for this project is to assist 400 households with up to $3,000 of water wastewater assistance and 20 households with plumbing improvements. Eligible assistance expenditures may include capping or lowering utility bills, reducing consumer debt, improving in-home plumbing, and protecting participating residents from water shutoffs. The period of performance is April 1, 2024 through September 30, 2026. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form prior to signature.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. So just a quick question. I'm assuming that this is similar to the previous water affordability programs that the KCCA has administered in the past. But just wondering, looking at bullet number 3, where it's talking about all of the different things that the assistance can be used to help support, I wondered specifically about the improving the in-home plumbing and wondering what that looks like for residents that would be eligible for this service. So is that totally upgrading all of the in-home plumbing? Is it just pipes? Like, what is that? Because there wasn't any grant documents in here, so I wasn't able to really see like what that would entail.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I'm Sheree Gillespie, the program manager. And what that would entail is we could repair any of the plumbing that would prevent them from having clean water. So we could replace a toilet, we could replace a sink, we could even replace the pipes that go from the home to the street, up to $9,000.
And so if there was during that process, I guess thinking about, lead pipe issues and all the sort of things that, have come up with various other communities, if there was something like that was discovered while you all were, having this type of service done for a resident, what would be the collaboration, I guess, between the local units of government and that are responsible for those pipes, for instance, in terms of helping ensure that this resident and the residents obviously around that home had safe pipes for their water?
We'd have to work closely with the utility providers, like the City of Grand Rapids and their programs. And in fact, we have a relationship with the City of Grand Rapids, and they are identifying homes for us that they already know have plumbing problems. So, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Antor.
I appreciate Commissioner McLeod's comments there, because we do have a lot of lead pipes probably going from houses to the street. And the only reason they're still functioning is because we treated the water properly. We have the same infrastructure as Flint, pretty much underneath the roads. But that's a good question. If we have lead pipes, is that a good time when they have a problem to pull them out and put PVC in, or continue to hope that our treatment is gonna allow us to continue to use those lead pipes, I guess? There's it's a lot more cost to replace them, but eventually I think they're gonna have to be replaced.
This project is not necessarily geared for replacing lead pipes. It's more to help homes who don't have water because of the pipes. So if in that case we found that the water's not going through the pipes and lead is a problem, then we would replace them.
All right, Commissioner Coleman.
I'm just curious, so it's clear to me the major part of this is the residents would have to be on a municipal water source, but the plumbing piece, do they have to be on a municipal water source, or someone that's on a well or some private water source? Are they eligible for the plumbing costs?
For this project, they'd have to have metered water, so it wouldn't cover well and septic.
All right. Any other questions? Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Chair. So do we know why that is? Because there are a good amount of people throughout Kent County on the outlying districts that would need, access. So we want to make it more equitable for those individuals. Do we know, or is this just the way the grant works?
It's kind of just the way the grant works.
Okay.
They might look at it differently eventually, but right now, that's the guidelines they've given us.
Commissioner McLeod.
Just a quick follow-up then. That was a great question. So is there funding available to support the more rural areas that have water issues? Is there funding, I guess, through KCCA that supports those that are not connected to city water sources?
To metered water?
Yeah.
Not at this time,
Okay.
no.
Something to look into further down the road. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Thanks for helping us out with all the answers today.
Thank you.
Our next item comes from Community Action again, and it's the Weatherization Deferral Reduction Program 2024.
Okay. Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $1,109,815 in federal grant funds passed through the Michigan Department of Health and Community Services for the Weatherization Deferral Reduction Program to the 2024 Kent County Community Action Fund budget, and to authorize the board chair or designate to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. Kent County Community Action has received notification of an allocation for the Weatherization Deferral Reduction Program grant. This grant will be used to correct conditions that make a residents ineligible for weatherization services, deferred from participating in weatherization. Improvements and repairs to make a residence eligible for weatherization may include, but are not limited to, mold remediation, outdated wiring, roof repair or replacement, and minor plumbing repair. KCAA is projecting to assist 101 homes with this funding. WXDEF program participants will become eligible for further weatherization assistance by completing deferral measures such as asbestos encapsulation, moisture control, structure repair, replacement of outdated wiring, and roof repair. The period of performance is October 1, 2023 through September 30, 2024. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form.
Thank Thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wooden. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Oliver King. Questions or comments? Commissioner Wooden.
Just on kind of previous conversation, as I recall, this program is not exclusive to meter or people on metered water, but it does include minor plumbing repair. So actually, this could be a source for those who are on a septic system that have a weatherization need. So it's just, pardon?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. No worries. It's just, if, just to conclude it, there are times where we can be a little more creative. Obviously, it's a little more restrictive when we're taking funds from another source, but at least this is one where we could potentially have a little more flexibility. Thank you.
Thanks for acknowledging that. Commissioner Kallman?
I would just like to comment that Michigan's Department of Acronyms Department has really been put to the test here. We saw the first one, the longest acronym I think I've ever noticed. And then in this one, they just added a random X to it. So they're busy over there.
Creative, I should say. Commissioner Antor?
Thank you, Chair. The improvements and repairs that are needed to make this grant available, it sounds like they don't want to put money into something that's pretty dilapidated. And I'm just curious, I wouldn't think a homeowner, the benefit wouldn't really justify the cost probably. So there probably isn't a whole lot of people making those improvements to get weatherized. Am I correct?
I do not know. That sounds logical to me. that
Yeah,
if
I
a
was just
house-
kinda curious
I mean,
how
if
that
a house is too far gone, then these funds are not gonna fix it. And
Correct.
this is really to look at a house that really, with some repairs, can be eligible for more work and be habitable and all that. So I think I'll defer to our resident expert, but makes sense to me.
What the funds are for is to help bring the home up to where we can weatherize it. So if the reason we have to defer it is because of, like, the roof is leaking, then these funds would be used to repair the roof, and then we go in and weatherize it. So it has to be at a state where it could have been weatherized, but not for this condition, we couldn't.
So this would be public funds being used to correct the roof? So
Right.
they could, okay.
And then it would have to be weatherized.
So what's the cutoff? Let's say a house has mold, it's got 3 of the things that are disqualifiers. At what point do you just say we can't do anything with that house? We move on to the next one.
There's an assistance cap. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what it is. I
So
don't
maybe a
remember.
dollar amount?
Is there a dollar amount where
Yeah.
it's just done? I mean, there's just no way you're gonna sink more money into this thing.
There's a cap,
Okay, and that is,
yep. And then with the weatherization, there's an average cost per unit, so we'd have to maintain that also. But then we have some unrestricted funds, exception funds that we would also partner with these funds if we could get the house to where we could weatherize it.
I'm just kind of curious how, will people still then, let's say they don't qualify for this because their house is so dilapidated, it's just, so at that point, it's kind of a crappy house. Do we allow people to continue to live in there unimpeded, or do we put some sort of pressure on either the landlord or somebody to make some improvements? I don't know if we're not encouraging blighted areas, but it seems like we ought to have a column with houses that don't qualify for this because they're too dilapidated.
I think what I heard is that there's a cap per dwelling and an average for all the homes that you're required to maintain. So that you aren't gonna invest in something that's a real dog,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Commissioner Sparks?
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. I don't recall seeing you here before, so nice to see you.
Yeah.
Question for you. Do we happen to have a list, just listening to everyone talk about, the dilapidation of the houses? Does KCCA have some sort of list or resource list that they can share with the individuals that do have the homes that don't qualify?
We would first look at our community development department and see if they would meet some of the program guidelines that they have. And hopefully that could help them repair the home to a state where we could go in and weatherize it. Yeah, yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item comes from the Parks Department. Item number 10 is the 2024 to 2028 Parks, Recreation, and Natural Areas Master Plan.
Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to adopt the Parks Department's proposed 2024 to 2028 Parks, Recreation, and Natural Areas Master Plan. Summary. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources requires a completed Park and Recreation Master Plan as part of the criteria for grant funding from the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund and other DNR grant programs. The Parks Department has developed and maintained Parks and Recreation Master Plans, with the most recent being approved in 2019. The Parks Department has completed an update to its 5-year master plan covering the years 2024 to 2028. As part of the update process, the Parks Department conducted a community survey and in-person engagement sessions. The plan has also been posted for public review, and a formal public hearing was held by the Board of Commissioners on March 14, 2024. The purpose of the plan is to provide a logical framework for decisions affecting park and trail facilities, as well as open spaces and natural areas. It is designed to serve as an effective tool to help maintain and improve the park and trail system and enable the department to identify and meet changing patterns of need with flexibility. The plan is not intended to be hard and fast roadmap for the development of the park and trail system. Implementation of any new development or acquisition would be at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners, either on a case-by-case basis or as part of the county's regular budgeting process. A copy of the full park plan can be found on the Parks page on Access Kent, and there's also a video presentation that can be found on YouTube.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King. Is there support? Support by Commissioner McLeod. Questions or comments regarding the Parks Master Plan? Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Chair. First, thank you to Mr. Swayze for the presentation. I too enjoyed watching it on YouTube. And really appreciated especially that in our plan our focus on trailways and connectors, on improving access to the river and the water shed, just, you know, as we've talked before, one of the things I'd like about our parks plan is how we try to make regional parks be regional not just because of their size, but their draw. And that's certainly two things. And the Unleashed Dog Park facilities certainly also, I think, have that too. My main question as I was looking through is under the action items for administration. We've spoken before about the potential of having a Parks Commission. I noticed that wasn't listed in one of the administrative steps. I realize this is not a hard and fast plan, as it doesn't preclude our ability to consider it. Just wondering, was that one of our considerations for an action step for this master plan? And if not, are we still considering the creation of a Parks Commission in the coming years?
Great, thanks. So I guess the short answer would be yes, that's something that's still under consideration. So I've had conversations with Mark Rambo and the county administrator about that. I know that there's been a committee that's been seated, correct, to
Subcommittee,
potentially
yes.
look at that option. So while it doesn't appear in that plan, it seems like that is certainly underway as we're working on it right now.
It's wonderful. Hey, buddy, Dad's talking now. But wait 20 years, but then you can run. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And again, really appreciate this. And the only other comment I had was looking at some of the community engagement stats. You know, clearly show the effort, and wondering if there is some value when we were doing some of our data gathering for our broadband plan. We had a threshold of a certain number of people having to respond before the data we had was accurate enough to review. And just wondering if, you know, going forward when we have another either master plan update or other regional interaction when it comes to our parks, having some kind of threshold of persons per zip code might be valuable, you know, going forward.
Yeah, so Mark and I have had conversations about that as well. So Part of the issue with this plan was that kind of up against the deadline from the DNR in order to get the plan updated for grant applications. In fact, we asked for and got an extension to be able to put this in for this grant cycle. So, but I do think that coming shortly, there is going to be an opportunity for a more scientific survey of the county, possibly as part of an actual Parks Department strategic plan or something that's a little bit more than just meeting the guidelines of the DNR. So I think that's coming up here in the next couple months or year, depending on what that effort is. But I do think we need to do that.
All right, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. The question, I guess our last master plan was 2019, and we're gonna be working off this new one. Is there any, Al, I guess the question would be for you on this Cannonsburg project that was on the, is that, where are we at on that? And would there be anything we can do as part of this new master plan to encompass some of the needs that they had at that time?
I think that, okay, it's a fact that we were turned down for a second year in a row as far as a grant proposal that, in this case, purchase a portion of the property around the actual ski hill. We are still in conversation with Cannonsburg and potential funders. Should we move forward, it will be in a much different, it'll have a different look than what we've pursued in the past.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not dead, but it's definitely slowed down quite a bit.
And it says Michigan Department of Natural Resources requires a completed park and recreation master plan. Is that all, that's always been the case, right? We're just kind of re-emphasizing that.
Yes.
Okay, very
Every
good.
5 years it has to be
Okay.
updated.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. Very specific question, but as scanning through, and I guess first of all, it's nice to look through and just be reminded of the great inventory of parks that we have here in Kent County. It really is a lot of fantastic resources for the residents of our county. I was scanning through and noticed in Brewer Park, it mentioned like one of the limitations is just that single entrance. And I didn't have a chance to look this up. I thought a number of years ago that we had purchased a piece of property, I think off of Division, that would have been a second entrance. Did that end up not happening, do you know?
So we didn't purchase a piece of property. We do have an outstanding CIP right now to make a potential connection. And there's actually, so we've been working with Gaines Township and a developer in Gaines Township who actually did purchase that piece of property. And they've designed, I haven't talked to them in about a month now, so I don't know if it's made its way finally through the planning commission, but they designed their development so that our park could potentially access their private drive to have that second access. So we have money in the CIP to develop it on our hand. The plan's there to connect it. So with all those pieces falling together, that's something that we could potentially do here in the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Great question, Matt. I know we both spend a lot of time at that park for soccer. Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this was a really expansive presentation. I appreciate the video as well. I just had a couple questions on the objectives because I think that one of the numbers was a little bit startling to me, and maybe that's a little excessive as a word, but on one of the objectives, it talks about the adjusting the earned revenue opportunities and that a minimum of 40% of department funding through earned revenue. And I just wondered how that is going to impact decisions about, rental costs and things like that for people that are visiting the park. Is it going to be solely focused on those types of fees and revenues that would be passed on to the residents, or are there other opportunities to offset that 40% revenue opportunities?
Yeah, so there are certainly, it's always a balance, right? Because we are a public service, we do provide a public service to the community. So anytime we look at our fee schedule, anytime we look at the rentals of the parks, we take that into consideration. Fortunately, we have a couple areas where fees make sense, right? So being able to rent a camping space in the campground, that's a specialized activity. So those are fees that we look at that provides a significant amount of revenue for us. course, looking at the golf course. Obviously, we never want to be the most expensive golf course. You never want to be the cheapest golf course. But golf has gotten expensive the past couple of years, so we look at adjusting that. We do offer rentals of parks or various parts of parks for special events. Sometimes that works out great, sometimes that doesn't work out great. We continue to evaluate that, balancing the opportunity to bring in revenue with the fact that the parks are there for the public use. We try to keep our rents for things like our open shelters and our enclosed shelters on the lower end so that, people aren't, we're not competing with wedding venues that, it costs $5,000, $6,000, right? We're trying to provide a revenue source for the Parks Department for an exclusive use, but still want that to be accessible to everybody. And then on the flip side, we do have some lower fees that are designed not to be revenue recovery, but more designed for control, right? For example, the gate entrance for Millennium Park, it's still very low, basically $3 a person. That was really put in place more to control the usage of the park, to make sure people weren't dropping off kids for daycare. We don't have lifeguards, so we always try to balance that. The good news is the past 10 years, we've consistently beat that 40%, and I feel that our rates are, middle to low end, so we don't have to make any drastic decisions. But we're always going to frame what we're looking at, what that cost recovery is as well. So if the Board of Commissioners came back one day and said, hey, we want you guys to recover 60% of your cost rather than 40%, that's going to change how we design the development of our parks going forward.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up. So that's great. I appreciate that. I just wondered if there was some baseline in terms of, what the market is calling for, if you guys are trying to hit a certain point within that. But it sounds like you're taking all of those things into consideration as well as making sure that you at least, break even and cover costs. So that's good.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Ben? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Item number 11, also from the Parks Department, it's regarding the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Johnson Park.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve submission of a grant application to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund for the purpose of developing Two Rivers Park, including parking, restrooms, and river access, and to commit to funding the required local match if awarded. Summary, Kent County Parks began acquiring land for Two Rivers Natural Green Space in 2007 and recently acquired another parcel with 1,450 linear feet of frontage on the Coldwater River and Thornapple River confluence, bringing the total acreage of the park to 291 acres. The department has developed an initial development plan for the park. Phase 1 of the plan includes an entry drive into the park, parking, restrooms, accessible water access, boat launch, and natural surface trails. The total cost of the first phase of the development plan is estimated at $2,150,000. The Parks Department is seeking support of the Board of Commissioners to apply for an MNRTF grant to cover $400,000 of this cost, which is the maximum application amount for a state grant. The remaining $1,750,000 local match has been previously appropriated as part of the $5 million ARPA allocation for acquisition and development projects in various Kent County parks, including Two Rivers Green Space, Thornapple River Green Space, Wellfield Park, 12 Mile Green Space, and Millennium Park.
All right, so that's actually item number 12. So we're just gonna.
Did I jump ahead?
It's okay. We're not gonna make you read it
That's
again.
a first.
So we'll do item number 12, which is the Parks, also from the Parks Department, Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Two Rivers Park. So is there a motion for that item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King. Is there support? Support. Support by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments on item number 12? Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Just curious about this grant fund. Sometimes they have requirements, like if you're gonna put in a boat ramp, that's a good thing in order to help get money, but sometimes you need more than one boat ramp. They have specific numbers per how much frontage you have, and I'm just wondering if we took that deep of a dive, because that trust fund has very specific requirements. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yep, that does make sense. They do have pretty specific requirements. In this case, I'm unaware of a requirement to have multiple boat launches, but it would have to be an accessible boat launch, and we've considered that in developing the budget for the
Okay.
project.
I was just gonna say, we've been looking at a project, the old Boat and Canoe Club right now is looking for some grant money from them, and part of the requirement is to have boat launches along the river there, and there's a specific amount that would be required, and it gets kind of convoluted, so I was just
Okay.
wanting to make sure we're on top of that. And if you have to put in, $100,000 boat launch to get an additional $1.5 million or something, it's gonna be worth it, but, I'm sure you're on top of that. I was just kind of curious how that process works.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on item number 12? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Now we're on to item number 11. It's the Parks Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Johnson Park.
I think it's like running the football into the wrong goal or something like that.
It's an own goal, yeah.
Anyways, action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve submission of a grant application to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund for the purpose of developing Johnson Park, including a restroom renovation, development of an open shelter, and creation of a natural surface single-track trail system, and to commit to funding the required local match if awarded. Summary. As part of the Grand River Greenway Initiative, the Kent County Parks Department is redeveloping a portion of Johnson Park to serve as a west trailhead for the Kent County section of the project. Phase 1 of the project has begun in 2024 with the repaving, reconfiguration, and expansion of the existing Johnson Park parking lot. Phase 2 will include the demolition and replacement of the existing restroom with a four-season restroom, a new open shelter to serve the trailhead area, and the development of a single-track mountain biking network. The total estimated cost of the second phase of the plan is $1,200,000. The Parks Department is seeking support of the Board of Commissioners to apply for an MNRTF grant to cover $400,000 of this cost, which is the maximum application amount for a MNRTF grant. If awarded, the Parks Department will submit the grant to the board for acceptance and appropriation at a later date. The remaining $800,000 local match has been previously appropriated as part of the $10 million ARPA allocation for the Grand River Greenway, which includes trail engineering and development, as well as trailheads and amenities at Johnson Park, Chief Hazy Cloud Park, and Lowell Regional Green Space.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Wooden. Questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Chair. I had a quick comment or a quick question. And actually, this might cover both of them, but I know that this is a competitive scoring process. In our previous applications, we've been less successful. How are we feeling about this application process? And is there something about these where we have where we're a little more optimistic? Is it the larger degree of local contribution?
Yeah, yep, definitely. Great question. So we had a big strategic powwow in our department. The fortunate thing about the both the acquisition and development grant process is they're very upfront about the scoring. So we were able to take the scoring spreadsheet and basically grade out, I'd say, a dozen or so projects based on where they're located, the amount of money that we had to them. And a couple other factors. So there's a couple places that we need to grab points in order to be successful for these grants. One of them is any projects that we can have in the urban census area, which is pretty defined to the Grand Rapids metro area and a little bit into the core 6 cities and surrounding townships, which is why the Johnson Park project was picked. Also access to unique natural resources, having the boat launch on the Thornapple River is something that's key to us because it ties into a couple other parks that have boating access as well. The fact that we already had the match funds for those two projects, they were above 50%, was a key item as well. For the Johnson Park project, you get extra points if you're replacing a facility that's over 40 years old and the restroom is 40 years. So we were pretty strategic for the projects that we picked. There's a lot of other projects that we want to do with this money as well. For all of the success that our department has had with the trust fund, it's really been acquisition. We've only had one development project in the past 20 years that I'm aware of. So we feel that these are competitive. I'm not here to tell you that we're absolutely going to get them, but we were strategic in how we picked them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Chair. Ben, quickly, it occurs to me, and I have a follow-up that's for Al after this, but it occurs to me that there's probably a lot of folks trying to leverage those ARPA dollars. Do you expect that probably this past year and this year, from what you're hearing from colleagues elsewhere in the state, that this will be pretty competitive cycle because there is all the extra funding that can be leveraged here?
Yeah, yep. This past year was very competitive. We're expecting this upcoming year to be pretty competitive as well. The flip side of that is the last year and hopefully this year, there's been more money to put out as well. So the trust fund has done good in the financial markets, whatever they can invest in. So that's been a good balance there as well. But you're correct. A lot of people are trying to leverage their ARPA dollars.
Thank you. And then a quick follow-up, unrelated to this project in particular, but I think it's great that we're using those ARPA dollars to try to, maximize that. It just occurs to me that I think we're probably due for a bit of an update on where we are with all the ARPA investments and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to bump on that. Not like I need to know day to day that we're being creative in ways that we can get more bang for the buck, but it'd be good to see where we're doing that and get an update on those projects. So thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Thank you too for highlighting the bathroom project there. I know previous Commissioner Jones was very passionate about updating those and having them be all season. So thanks for doing that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. That brings us to Commissioner Miscellaneous. Is there any Commissioner Miscellaneous? Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to thank everyone for your patience this morning as we had a new commissioner joining us today. I was this close to asking that we get either waive Standing Rule 3.3, I think it's F, that requires that commissioners stay seated while taking their votes. But thankfully, we didn't have to do that. And just thank you to Chair Brevi for the contribution of coloring of a coloring book and some crayons and some other toys to help keep this little guy occupied while we met. So thank you all.
You are welcome. And, Sam, I do see a future for you. I think I'm seeing like Wooden 2044 or something. So you are kind of a clone to your father.
Wooden 2.0.
Yes, Wooden 2.0 for sure. But great job today. Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment, we've had a water crisis here in Grand Rapids, and I was just pretty impressed by the response. And it seems like we had adequate resources and a lot of people beating the drum to continue to build on those resources. Right now, I think we have like 8,000 cases of water that they're going to be handing out. It just seems like we had a really good response. I don't live in the city, but I've talked to my daughter who lives in Burton Heights and some other folks around that area that it seems like they were pretty pleased with the amount of warning they got, and hopefully everybody's heeding that. And I think tomorrow, everything's supposed to be back up and running, so.
I believe so. I believe Wednesday is the day they're supposed to have everything complete. Yeah, any other Commissioner Miscellaneous? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned, and our next meeting will be on Tuesday, April 16, right here in this room at 8:30 a.m. Have a wonderful week.
Hey, Bob.